Morning, everybody. It is 8:14 a.m., October 31st, the end of the month. Happy Halloween. Markets were yesterday in a range for a while. Towards the end of the day, kind of had late day sell off. And then in futures, recovered with Amazon and Apple's earnings. Amazon is up over 12%, Apple's up over 2%. Coinbase also had good earnings. They're up over 4%. Now, as far as the big earnings, we're done with them. Now we just had now we just have um, Nvidia down the road, AMD, but like the big boys, other than Nvidia, are pretty much done. Okay. Uh, Interesting too that I saw that came out was Netflix, and I kept on saying to myself, when are they going to split? When are they going to split that stock, being over $1,000? And they finally announced the split. So they're doing a 10-for-1 split, which should make this, you know, 10 times less. So it will be around $100 stock. So now that will be more tradable, and the volatility will slow down tremendously. So big stocks that used to be huge, like Amazon and Google, we were like $3,000 a share. That's why they're much more manageable now. Also, Nvidia was in the 1500s or something like that. And that did a 10-to-1 split. So now there's, out of the main stocks, there's really not a stock there that is not tradable. I'm not saying it's not tradable, but like Netflix, you could do spreads on it with no problem. But now will be a lot more manageable to to trade. So today's end of the month. There could be some shenanigans at the end of the day, so maybe window dressing for the end of the month. Uh, Price wise, or in the hourly chart right now, if we look at it, just give you a brief little view. This move down kind of cleaned up a lot of structure here. And now look, it's pretty much what I would say is kind of like, you can call that like a sweep of all these longs. And now look at that big bar came back and we're starting to drive back up. I would think that shorts are probably removed from this market for today. I could be wrong, but we're just breaking out of this consolidation in the Qs as well. And the Qs did a real good job of cleaning up that poor structure that I talked about earlier, right here. All that was cleaned up. All of that. I talked about that pre-market. He loves cleaning up that poor structure. I wasn't sure if that was going to happen because you could see during the day it was pretty much for hours and hours trading in a range. And it was just a late day sell off. So, and we're end of the month, we'll just have to see what happens. Okay. Now, we have one data today is 9:45. You got Chicago PMI. There were earnings out this morning. It's just Chevron and Exxon Mobil. Looks like so far Exxon's not doing too good. Chevron a little better. So we'll get into that. If why is the reason for that? Okay, but as far as that's concerned, Charter Communications also reported. AbbVie. We'll look at that a little bit later. Let's just get right into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steve Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. That is how I make game plans on the markets. I like using the anchored VWAPs. I like using the book map to execute my futures. My market internals once the market opens. And my weekly expected move indicator. Okay. That shows you the expected range of a bunch of important tickers, and 70% of the time stock closed within that range. Now, the QQQ hit the expected move the other day, the day before yesterday. And then look, we got a little pullback, right? Nvidia hit it, Broadcom hit it. Now Google has hit its expected move. What else here? Amazon, let's see. Amazon's it's over its expected move right now with earnings. Okay. Now, hopefully, you guys join me every morning. Subscribe, set an alert, give you the market story, market news, economic calendar, leaders and laggards, and generally why the market's doing what it's doing. Okay. Let me be your morning cup of coffee. Let me be your podcast. Okay. Now, you want more in depth? You're going to go to my Discord, Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. Okay, there I give you intraday commentary. Now, this week, I'm not going to lie. This week has been super frustrating just because I haven't taken a trade. Very frustrating. Yesterday in particular, the internals. I'm going to show you the internals here off the open. Do you see this? I want you guys to look at this. Okay. We initially opened up and sold off. The whole time I want to show you these internals were never weak. Ever at all. And I just didn't have a setup. It was so fast, and the ATR, which is your average true range, was like insane. We went from like no volatility till yesterday. It was like 16 points every 5 minutes in the ES. It was so crazy that the volatility just spiked so much, and it was just wild. And I did like the market. That's the most frustrating thing when your analysis is spot on, and you can't even like take advantage of it. I like it didn't have a setup that I could like go, okay, cool. It was just like sold off, and then it was just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, of course, can you enter and chase? That's something I just don't want to repeat and make a habit. Now, in retrospect, maybe I could have threw an SPX bull puts credit spread on there. I probably could have done that. Maybe in the future I might when there's no like entry. Um, Possibly, I don't know. Or maybe scale in. That's just really frustrating. So this week's been super, super frustrating. You're just watching. I mean, the beginning of the week was such garbage at low volume. Yesterday, we finally had volatility, but then it was like the polar opposite. It was super volatile. Like super volatile. So it was like, wow, we went from like 3 points. I'm going to give you like the ATR from the other days. They were like 3 points every 5 minutes. This was 16, 17 points every 5 minutes. Now, can you trade that? Yeah, like a contract. But still, it wasn't even a setup. Even with that, I didn't get a pullback. It was just very frustrating. Anyway, I still give you my market commentary yesterday, right? And at about 11:46, you can see the internals were just not weak, and we just were ranging until the end of the day. At one part, the one thing that I'd have to say is that's my Discord. Okay. Now, the one thing I would have to say is the ticks. Let me just show you the ticks. The one thing that was really notable at the end of the day yesterday was from about 2 o'clock on, look at the ticks. They were just red, under zero. That pretty much, when you hold under zero, that was the one tip off that, wow, this could just keep going down. Even though, if you look at the internals at the end of the day, see, they were not weak until right here, about 255. They were holding on until right there. Boom, boom, boom. And yesterday, we had a flip of a script. Look, financials was up. Healthcare was up. Industrials is up. Even Stables was up at one point. This is after it was weak. But it was a flip of the script for most of the day. Real estate got love. So, very weird yesterday. Very weird. Okay. Now, let's get right into watch list here. What's moving markets today? Ethereum is up 5.11%. Bitcoin up 3.61. Nasdaq's up 1.5%. ES up 0.91. Gold is up 0.50. Silver's up 0.33. Dow's up 0.26. Russell's up 0.21. The 10-year yield is up 0.12. Dollar's up 0.10. 30-year bonds slightly down. Crude down 0.28. The VIX is down 5.62%. It's almost down $1. Okay, so again, what this market keeps doing is like having some type of sell-off, and we almost hit the 9 EMA daily yesterday, or 8 EMA. I can't remember which one I have on my chart. What's one of those? It might be the 8. And what we do in futures, I think we almost hit it, is it's like every pullback's a buying opportunity. And we're starting to rip up right now. So it's just crazy. All right, moving on to the Mag 7 plus list. Amazon's up 13.17% at 252. It closed at 222. $30. Oof. They had really good earnings with their AWS. All right. Coinbase up 4.26%. They had earnings. Apple had earnings as well, up 2.52. Nvidia's up 2.25. AMD's up 2.18. Google's up 1 point. Now, the reason all these are up so big is because the market closed at the lows. And then once futures kept going, that like sell-off was erased with Amazon and Apple's earnings. So now we're actually gapping up in the Nasdaq. It's nuts. That's why this week with these big earnings, a swing trade is like really hard to hold on to or to think you're short. It's really hard. Okay. Now Netflix, you can see that little check mark there. That's a split. That's that 10-to-1 split, and that is going to happen on 11/17. So that stock will be 10-to-1 split. Okay. So that's the reason for all those positive numbers. All right, Berkshire Hathaway down 0.42. Now we move on to the top sectors. Palantir up 2.59. Oracle up 2.14. Now Oracle, I did put a backspread on that trade yesterday. It went all the way down to 256. It's back up to 262. Now that backspread that I put on, I held on to it because I was like, you know what, this could rip back up. Okay, I got paid $60 to put it on. Now it has to stay below 265 by expiration for me to collect that $60, right? But if Oracle starts to rip up today, then my spread will make me money. I mismanaged that yesterday. I should have waited till it hit the 100-day moving average because that's what it did and bounced. Then I would be in profit right now. But instead now I needed to go to start pushing through 265. So I'll be monitoring that close today, and I might just take it off if it dies or whatever because I need to see that stock rip up. It's a volatile stock, so that's in my favor. But I mismanaged that. I should have waited to that bottom. Put it on then, because now I'd be sitting pretty. Okay. Chevron up 9.93. They reported earnings. Now, laggards in this list: McDonald's, United Healthcare, PepsiCo, and Exxon. Exxon must have had something with their earnings. Oh, also, they had a dividend. So that could be the reason. Let's see. Earnings. estimated they beat. Profits keep falling, it says. But they also had a dividend. Did they have a dividend today? Oh no, dividends not yet. So that is from earnings. Okay, because on a dividend date, whatever the dividend is comes out of the price of the stock. Okay, let's look at the granular list here. We have Reddit up 12.54, Western Digital up 10.77, Twilio up 10.11. I believe that's Arista or Cloudflare. I believe one of those up 8.19. Illumina up 6.55. MicroStrategies had earnings and they had a beat up 6.54. Marvel Semi up 5.52. So a lot of big winners here. Roblox. All right, you get the picture here. A lot up, down. Let's see here. Charter Communications is down 5.60%. They reported earnings. Roku reported earnings. They're down 3.09. Baba down 1.75. That rounds out that list. Let's go to sectors. I'm assuming semis is probably one of. No, it's not. It's Amazon. Well, not Amazon. Discretionary. That's Amazon. Up 2.71%. Oof. Wow. XLK up 1.22. Now, usually you see semis above XLK. That's Apple. That's Apple and Oracle. Okay. And Nvidia. Now, semis up 1.17. So this is risk on. Okay, this is risk on. Communications. Now lagging. Financials. Real estate. Healthcare. Very interesting. It was like one day that the financials yesterday had a little bit of a lift. Real estate had a little bit of a lift. So did Staples for a little bit, but tech's getting bought again. Very, very interesting. Okay. Now, let's go right into economic calendar. Today, we have Fed Logan speaking right at the market open. Chicago PMI 945, Fed Bostic at 12, Fed Hammock at 12. All this stuff, core PCE, would be out, but we have a government shutdown, so that's not going to be available. Okay. As far as the earnings went, we'll just show this. And now big earnings is done. All right. We had Amazon, Apple, Coinbase, Reddit, Western Digital, all reporting. Roku, Cloudflare. So that is Cloudflare, net, not Arista. Cloudflare. Before the open today, ExxonMobil, Chevron, AbbVie, Charter Communications, Colgate, CBOE. All right. So that rounds out big earnings. Now there is AMD next week, but the market cap weight on that doesn't really move markets. Let's go back here. Let's look at some juice here. See if there's anything for Trump today. I don't see anything. Yeah, it just says S&P 500 poised for a sixth straight monthly gain after Amazon's blockbuster results reignited optimism in global equities, reversing a brief pause in the rally that lifted markets to record highs. This market's like insane. It really is. Because if you had a big chance for a big pullback, it would have happened in August, September, October. Now we're going into November, and generally November, December are bullish. So it's very crazy. It really is insane. Okay. Let's look at some stock news here. Let's go and get these latest updates on the stocks. Just so while the we can see here. Or not, they're not giving me that. Let's see here. I like sometimes they give you a nice summary here. Let me try it one more time. No, they don't. They're not giving me that little summary. That's okay. I already know why they're up, and really. Okay, we're gonna move on to more stock news here. So, Apple CEO forecasts holiday quarter iPhone sales at top Wall Street estimates. Amazon shares soar as cloud growth beats expectations. Amazon's cloud revenue rose at the fastest clip in nearly 3 years, helping the company forecast quarterly sales above estimates and driving its shares up after market trading. Meta to raise 30 billion in its biggest bond sale as AI expansion costs rack up. Social media giant Meta will raise up to 30 billion in its biggest bond offering ever. It said in a filing as big tech rushes to fund the costly expansion of artificial intelligence infrastructure. U.S. grocers brace for sales dip as food aid sets to lapse. U.S. grocers and food companies ranging from Walmart to Smithfield Foods are bracing for a dip in November sales, and federal food aid benefits lapse for the first time due to ongoing government shutdown. Exxon beats quarter three profit estimates on higher Guyana Permian production. ExxonMobil beat Wall Street estimates for third quarter earnings, underpinned by higher oil and gas production in Guyana. But it's down. Well, it's pairing losses right now as I'm looking at it. Let's look at any other news here. Coinbase, the company beat analysts' estimates for third quarter profit as heightened volatility in digital assets boosted trading volumes at the cryptocurrency exchange. Coinbase's transaction revenue rose to 1.05 billion during the quarter. Very good. That was just my daughter. She's Harley Quinn for Halloween. She looks great. Into let's see here. Just trying to get more. Let's see. Nvidia company CEO Jensen Huang said he hoped company's state-of-the-art Blackwell chips can be sold in China, although the decision needs to be made by U.S. President Donald Trump. Here's Oracle. So this is like possibly why Oracle is ripping a little bit back. OpenAI and Oracle and related digital will build a data center campus of more than 1 gigawatt in Saline Township, Michigan. So hopefully this rip makes Oracle rip back up today. That would help my spread out a lot. I also saw that I think the CEO sold some shares yesterday. So probably helped it move lower. And let's see what else here. Amazon, let's see. Jeffries raises target price 275 and 265. Apple, JP Morgan raises target price at 305 from 290. Roblox, Jeffries cuts target price to 115 from 130 as the management calls its 2026 commentary signals slower bookings growth and margin pressure. All right. That's it there, folks. You could see, we'll look at the breadth real quick. Still not great. 34% of stocks are only over their 20-day simple moving average. So, overall, if you look up here, right, this market, ooh, just got a nasty wick there in the markets. This is like very, tech is just moving the markets. It's really all it comes down to, right? All right, so let's move into our daily charts. Okay. Alrighty. So, expected move was to 691. We didn't quite make it there. We're back inside this trend channel from yesterday. Still above last week's highs. Okay. There's your 9 EMA daily. Okay. You have this little trend line up here, right here. All right. Where are we at now? We are at 685. This is crazy. See, we closed at 679. We are here. We are here. 685.55. Right. Yesterday's highs. Crazy. So, any shorts that you were in here, yeah, they're not feeling too hot after that close. Like, so if you were in a short, let's say from the highs of yesterday, and we closed at the lows, that's pretty bearish, right? You shorted up here, you got follow through, your positions are all underwater now. It's just crazy the way this market's moving. Okay, so let's look at ES futures here, and that is balance, folks. Look at this. And this is just this week. This is why this week, besides yesterday with the crazy volatility, this is why, right? This week is why, look at this futures trading. That is gross. This is why the markets this week with the low volume, we had big volume yesterday, right? And look, you ended the day on a doji in futures. But look, got another little doji again, right? So now the market's trying to sell with a little bit of a nasty wick. We'll get into that. But this is not fun trading for me, for my style. Okay, you can just see indecision and decision, and it's because the big earnings, the FOMC, just not a great week for my style. All right, and I'm not about to force trades, and it just makes you feel like, what am I doing? It's not a good feeling. It is what it is, but it's just not great when you're just not like doing much, right? So that's what's going on right now. That is, ugh. Okay, let's look at Qs. Okay, here's your Qs. Remember, that's the expected move for my script. Had a little bit of a kind of like a doji or a golden cross, whatever you call this. I'm not big into those patterns, right? And then you got the sell. Now I thought about yesterday, going, I could expect. Oh, this market's really trying to dip here. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. So where are we now? Right, we closed at 626. We're at 634. We're right here. So you're still over yesterday's highs in the Qs. Okay. Still way above last week's range. There's Friday's close. There's really, I mean, I would really be shocked today. And I don't know if something just came out, because that's kind of like a pretty nasty reverse, what I'm looking at. But we'll have to see. Let's look at futures. So this is futures, and that is another one that just does not look very inviting. I mean, this is what we're doing. I mean, just ugh, right? It's not a swing trading nightmare, is what that is. Maybe day trading, I'm saying you could scalp the heck out of that. But as far as me, where I want to go, okay, let me sit down, let me see the moves. Not a fan of it. Okay, not a fan of it. So look, we're just in balance. We're in balance, right? So let's look at RSP, which is the equal weight, which is part of my internals. Let's just look at that equal weight chart. Notice that. Now check that out. That is crazy. This is why you got that late day sell off. Look at that candle in RSP yesterday. It opened here. It drove all the way up. This is where I was like, okay, wow. The equal weight is strong. And look at it. What a reverse, an inverse hammer candle there. Wow. That is why your overall breadth is 34% of the S&P 500 is not good. Okay. Wow. Right? Look at that. Look at that. You got basically a double top in the RSP, equal weight. Okay. Very interesting. That is quite a reversal. Now you'll see that right in my internals as well. So let's look at my internals, Gwen, just to understand. That's the exact same thing as my internals, the equal weight, right? Whenever I mention equal weight, that white line is equal weight, is RSP basically. See how it was strong? Look at it, it was stronger than the market cap here. I was like, okay, they finally got some. Nope, look at that. Zoom down with the rest of the market. So pretty insane. And this is just where I'm talking about. Like, this market under the hood is not looking great, but tech is holding up. It's holding up, right? Amazon and Apple earnings, right? Let's look at the New York Stock Exchange. And just to show you again, what does that look like? Let me bring that up. Look at that. So this is the NYSE exchange. Has over, I think, 2,500 stocks in it. Look what the market's doing. Came up, red, 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 or down day, down day, down day, right? The only thing that looks great is the NASDAQ composite, right? Look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Finally had like a down day, right? But that's been driving the market. Now we look at breadth as far as the percentage of stocks over the 50-day, down to 40%. See, this is the S&P 500 percentage of stocks over the 50-day moving average. It's only at 40%. So just understand that if our market moved based on like every stock was equal and it was just the overall markets, right? This is what your chart would look like. That's what our market would look like, and that doesn't look good. Okay? So underneath the hood of our market, the whole market is not very strong. Okay? Oh boy. Right there. Sorry about that. Okay? All right. Let's move on to hourly charts. All right. So I talked about this yesterday. I said this structure here was not the best move up here. Literally said this. And look what we did. Cleaned it all up and then tried to fill the gap. Couldn't. Bounced. Consolidated. Had to move up. And then you just get this one candle right here that's fighting the most traded price of the week, which is 69.08s. Okay? But this is very telling. This was gonna hard yesterday. This was gonna be hard to get through that. And then look, I tried. There's your sell. Clean up the structure. Now look though, big buying, and now you took out that resistance and you're holding the 69.08s, which is the most traded price of the week. I believe, unless there's not a catalyst here, the shorts have been taken out of this market. Now, you might get a dip to go higher. Of course, you could roll over. I don't know. It doesn't look good. Now, what this does look like is longs from here just took some profits with that wick. Now it's up for the market to see if it can push up. And there's a lot of right here is going to be tough to get through. Tough to get through here. But it can and probably will. Okay. That's your ES. Let's go over to the NASDAQ. Okay. Same thing yesterday is what I talked about is that structure. Okay. What happened? Well, we had this range yesterday. And finally, boom, look to the left. Took all that out. Went right into this demand zone here. Bounced, right? Hard. Consolidated, pushed up, and look at that resistance here. Around the 2, let's see what level that is. That's a lot of resistance there at 26288. Okay. So, what do we do here? We're over the most traded price of the week. We're back over the week to date anchored VWAP. Look at the month to date anchored VWAP all the way down here. Bulls are in control still. Now look, you came right up to this area of resistance and you got some profit taking. All you need is a little pullback to probably go long. Because to me, if you were short here, you held, you got to move, held, got to move. Now you ripped back. And I think all these shorts are gone now. Okay. We have to see. Now remember, the overall breadth of the market doesn't look great. It just doesn't. It really doesn't. Even pre-market, it doesn't. Healthcare's down, real estate's down, financials are down, staples are down. But what is up? Discretionary, technology, semis. Can't argue with that. Okay? That's your hourly charts. Let's get over to the market profile, volume profile. And whoever's even listening to me, which is probably not many people, I don't think, we'll get into it. This is your market profile and volume profile analysis here. And you can see here, if I push this up a little bit, look at the expansions of range, right? Because this was, I believe, Monday, little baby range here. I mean, they weren't small, but they were low volume. Tuesday. And then you had FOMC. That makes sense. Big range. Big overnight range. Right? Then you had another big overnight range. I'm sorry. This is yesterday's range. Another big range. Right? But we were just doing this for the majority of the day. And then boom. Right? And then another decent range in the overnights. And this is all Amazon earnings, Meta earnings, Google earnings, right? And at the end of the day, after this wild mess, we're back where? The snuggly warm bread of the most traded price of the rolling week. Not a shocker, not a surprise. That's just how the market works. Okay? After all this crap, we're in the middle at the most traded price of the week. That's just how it works. Not a great location to be. It's just not. You have heavy supply above us. We just came off the lows. This is not a great place to be. Now you have this profile from the weekly profile, and you have it skewed. To me, it looks like it has a little bit of a bullish imbalance to it. Like we want to move higher, it looks like, in the profile. We have excess to the downside now. Okay? Levels. We have heavy resistance right here, 69.30s. Okay. We have a balanced profile overnight, right? People just took profits above yesterday's highs. Price, like I said, is in the warm, snuggly bed. Now, we have a level down here. All right, we can just say it's from here with the gap. This gap is still unfilled. And we have this big area here. Specifically, overnight lows, RTH lows yesterday. All right, and you have this single prints. So you can see market opened up. Now this opens at 415 in my this is how this works for me. And it was wild and then just went boom. Had a bunch of trading in volume here. Right at the most traded price of yesterday also was the overnight. And then boom, broke this consolidation. Okay. Now this we know is a strong resistance level, the 6930s. We know that the 6908 is the warm snuggly bed. And what I would say, this becomes a very, very important level, the 6900s. 6900s. Right? Right here. Because this is the most traded price of yesterday and of the overnight. What's hard about this, right, and I think might be very difficult, is where we're at. All right? Because we came from up here all the way down. Then we got bought up. And now we're in the middle of the range. So that is going to be a battle. And I believe the edge goes to the bulls, but anything can happen. You're in the middle. So that's why this is just not exciting, this setup here. It's not. It's not, because you have balance trading in the overnight. You took out shorts, and now longs from here got paid, and now we're in the middle. Very difficult. It's not like, this is not like, ooh, this is like amazing setup. It's not. Yesterday was. And like I said, I couldn't take advantage of it because of the volatility, and it just wasn't really a setup. I would have been chasing, which isn't, it just gets to be like frustrating, because I'm like, wow, all right, well, there goes that analysis. I was literally watching the market yesterday and going, we're going higher. This is going to rip. But like, it just ripped. There was no like, all right, here's my setup. I would have just had to get in without risk management. It just got in, right? Now, let's look at some levels. Okay? Let's get into the analysis. All right? So, now, a couple things here. What you're probably going to need to do if you think the market opens up strong, right? Because you have this thick consolidation here. All right, we're going to use that. All right, now, you have the 6908s, the most traded price of the rolling week here, right here. That's where we're at. What I think could happen, there's so much heavy supply here, the 6930s resistance. I think you're going to need the market to rip and take out that supply and get maybe a pullback back to the 6908s to then go higher and try to test the all-time highs. That is not going to be easy to take this out. Now, maybe it does and rip, but you have so much heavy supply there. It depends on how strong the market is, okay? Now, another scenario. We could struggle here, the 6908s, right? And this is what I feel like might be a little bit of the bear trap. If we fail here and say we sell, right? And we cut through the most traded price of the overnight and yesterday, I think we could probably take out this around the 68.92s. And what I think would happen would be you rip down into this big demand zone here, near the close, near value area low of yesterday, okay? And I think anywhere in here, if you get any kind of whoop, that's a long. Target the most traded price of the month, of the week, and see if you can hold it. And maybe you get some extra, right? Now, does that market, it all depends on the internals for me of how these scenarios play out. Like if we rip down here quick, market's really not that weak, I'm going to be looking long. If the market rips down here with weak internals, I'm probably not going to go look for a long. Okay. We still have an unfilled gap down here, right? But I think this could definitely feel like, oh man, the bears are back. And I feel like then the bulls step in. It all depends on the internals. Okay. That's the bullish case. Bullish case. Like I said, I right now do not like what I'm seeing. And again, it's just like, great. Am I not going to trade all week? Jeez, give me something, right? Now, for shorts, okay, there's a lot of heavy supply above this 6908. Okay, so we could very well do something like this, right? Push up into the overnight highs, come into this supply, reject, retest the 6908s, and then look to take out this support of the 6889s. Now, what you have here is single prints. Okay? And if this market gets weak, it could take all the overnight out and just try to test this unfilled gap down to 6841s. That market has to get weak to do this. Okay? You could also wait for something like this. Any kind of failure above this, push, come through here, and then boom. I would probably not be excited to short anything above the 6908s. Can it happen? Yes. Do I like it? No. So I'm not even going to put it in there. Okay? I think, and let's mark my words here, the shorts have been removed. I think the real trade is along somewhere in here if the market's not that weak. Now, the whole market has to fall apart in order for me to go, uh-oh, we're going down, right? On October, the last day of the month, right? I don't know. And I'm going to try to tell myself to lean, have a bullish bias a little bit, because I feel like a bear trap's in here, okay? But don't get me wrong, I will go with what the internals tell me. That's your ES. Down to your NASDAQ. Okay? NASDAQ is still gapping up. Remember, tech is pretty strong right now. That's what moves our markets. That's why I keep saying that. Now, can that reverse? Yes. Right? It can. But let's just see. Now, in the NASDAQ, you can see this big profile here. Pretty balanced. Okay, let me get rid of that color. It's pretty balanced. Like I said, we're kind of in a balance. It's kind of messy, but it is a balance. Okay. What are the levels we're going to look for on the NASDAQ? Well, your most traded price of the week is 260.50 right here. We are above that. Bullish structure. Okay, bullish structure. Big single prints here, right? Big demand zone here. So we're going to knock this demand zone starts at yesterday's close. Yesterday's lows is the support. Okay. Big volume here. This is another key level right here. So right here, I'm going to make a little range from value area lows in the overnights, 26149s. Let's just call it 26150s. Right here. And in this little line is the gap fill. And that lines up with the most traded price of the overnights. This is very important. So this level of the overnight most traded price is 26193. That is a lot of volume. And the price is above it. Okay, that is a lot of volume. All right, and that is your gap fill. The market's going to have to do a lot of work to cut through that. A lot. So we know we have good resistance here. All right, I mentioned that in the hourly charts. Right here, 26287s. That is a key resistance level right here. The most traded price of the 24-hour chart here of the week is 26260s. Right in here as well. That's why that's an important level. That's why this heavy supply above us is going to be hard to cut through. It's just going to be hard. And then we have our all-time highs up here. A lot of supply, overhead supply. Okay. Let me get rid of this. Okay. Let's open up the session and get into it. So we are gapping up. Small gap. Small. But look at that trading. That's your gauge. This area. Okay? That is your gauge. Now, let's get into scenarios. And who's in control? Your bulls. Okay, now you can see the market came up to here, got rejected. All right, not shocking. People were long from here, Yeah, you're going to take some profits. Okay, what it really comes down to is what do we do in here? Now, we already got a nice rejection up there. So I'm going to say we're probably going to maybe come down and test this 26125s. Come out of this range. Okay, now you do have single prints here. You do have a week to date anchor VWAP here. Okay, I could see this being the bear trap. You push down either the week to date anchor VWAP and then you make your move up. The week to date anchor VWAP is 26096s. Okay, now we can also, because the Nasdaq is a very quick mover, if this happens quick, you could also drop right to your most traded price at 26050s of the week. You're in single prints as well. Single prints is support. You can get a higher low, maybe retest, and that's your move up. Below the 26050s, I probably wouldn't want to be long. Now you can get a scalp long in here, but I don't really want to be below that. Okay? This is hard right here to cut through just off the bat. That's why I think we need some type of pullback. Okay. So this is the only thing I'm probably interested in. Now, if we do this, push up, right, hit this resistance, I still think you have a chance to maybe pull back to this 262s to go higher. That's also in the cards. All right, let's go to shorts. And I think you're going to have an opportunity probably off the open of people taking profits. Okay, so the price is right here. We could fill the gap. And I think this is probably going to happen already. So let's say we do this. Zoom. I think we very well, and we're starting to do it, can push down and test this big consolidation. Right? And if we really get cooking, there's single prints right down to this big level 26050s. Happens to be the most traded price of yesterday as well. That is not going to get cut through very easily. And the market will tell you if it does not care about that level. Okay? So typically, you just don't go like this. Typically, you'd play around here. And either you go up or down. Now, in this case, if you find acceptance below it, you could take out these single prints of yesterday and test yesterday's lows. Now the market has to be weak to do this. It is there. The structure is there. This is a toothpick. All right, so we got Alfie here. Elephant on a toothpick. Right here. Okay. This market has to get weak, though, to do this. Now, what else can happen is we can push up, come right to that 26260s, tap that overnight high, go to that key resistance right here. That is a very key resistance. Okay. Let's look at this session, break it out real quick to show you that. Boom. There it is right there. That's at 26287. Okay. And get back here. We could get a little rejection here. Go back under this most traded price of the 24 hours, and that could also cascade down. Okay. That's it, folks. That will do it for me today. All right. Please smash that like button if you enjoyed that analysis. And hopefully you join me every morning and subscribe. Set and learn. Give you the market story. Give you the economic calendar, market news, leaders and laggards, why the market's doing what it's doing. Okay, let me be your morning cup of coffee, tea, water, and let me be your podcast in the morning. I will never steer you wrong on what I'm seeing and why the market's doing what it's doing. Okay, I think this market has weak legs, but it doesn't matter if tech is moving the market. It can move up and the market not be overly strong. It doesn't matter. The S&P 500 is a market cap weighted index. So where tech goes is where our market goes. Okay. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage with me, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Click on my YouTube homepage. Click on the link. Sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. I will not steer you wrong. I don't have to give alerts. But if you just can come in there and ask questions, right? Because I've seen my internals look all different kinds of ways. I see where there's a big edge to it. I see where there's an edge to stay away. And basically, I will just guide you. Okay? If I think it's garbage and I don't like it, I say it. I'm not really interested in this market. It doesn't suit my style. I'll still give you what I think's happening. But sometimes when it's hard to read, there's too many mixed signals. It's like, what am I going to do? Force myself? I'm going to risk my capital on something that I don't like? It doesn't make sense. Unfortunately, that means you don't do anything, but you're also not losing anything. Okay? So, that's it from me. Now, everybody have a happy Halloween. Okay? My daughter was Harley Quinn this morning. She looked amazing. I'm going to go see her in her little parade later on today. So, everybody have a great weekend. All right? And if I don't see you on my Discord, I'll see you on